Hi, what's up? I'm Channel Pup, mascot for the Level-Headed Fanboy, and today I'm doing a video that has been pretty highly requested over the years since Spider-Man No Way Home released. An updated Spider-Man suit ranking. However, to make this one a bit different from previous installments, I've decided to include suits from the Insomniac Spider-Man video games and the Spider-Verse film series. Now, for the Insomniac games, it's just going to be the main suits of the two Spider-Men, and when it comes to the Spider-Verse movies, it's just going to be the main three of Gwen Stacy, Miles Morales, and Peter B. Parker. So yes, they will be on the list. I am also including what I consider to be negligible distinctions this time. For example, previously I just lump the 2002 and 2004 Raimi suits in one and just call it the Raimi suit. Nah, this time I am going to rank them separately. Now, I think this ranking is really based around the kind of relationship that I have with these costumes. So yes, before anyone calls me biased, I know I'm biased. I'll explain a little bit of why certain costumes have ranked where they are, but in this case, it really boils down to how much I like the costume, and I think that's a good way for everyone to make their own ranking, because it means that no two rankings are going to be alike, you know? So if you disagree, fair game.
Tell me, did you subscribe? You will. And you'd better not forget to hit that like button as well. This video is not sponsored by Wayne Enterprises or LexCorp, so check out the Patreon link in the description below and consider making a monthly pledge. Men are still good.
Alright, coming in at number 29 is the Vigilante suit from The Amazing Spider-Man. Now, this suit is perfectly fine for what it's trying to be. This represents Peter Parker before he'd really gone on to be a superhero and he's just taking the law into his own hands. And here he's just rocking his everyday clothes but paired with a balaclava, beanie, and sunglasses. It works fine for what it sets out to do, but it's not a very interesting outfit by any stretch, nor does it really need to be. I think it's in its narrative purpose that this is not supposed to be the striking costume that his later suit would end up being. Coming in at number 8 is the Inside Out suit from Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, this isn't a terrible design, a black suit with gold webbing. That's kind of cool, and the technological details on the inside of the suit, it makes for a very textured, very interesting look, but this suit was just completely unnecessary. Existing surely just to sell toys. I can't think of any other real reason. Now, yes, the red and black suit does get paint splotched on it, and the Iron Spider nanotech does get stolen, but the red and black suit gets cleaned up just a scene later in the movie. So there's really no reason why he couldn't have just worn the red and black suit in this scene. It just exists because Marvel Studios, for whatever reason, just cannot bear to keep Spider-Man in his classic outfit. Coming in at number 27 is the Night Monkey suit. Now, we're on to suits that I like on this list, and I do like the Night Monkey suit well enough. It's a little tactical shield take on Spider-Man, and that's kind of cute, I guess. But at the same time, it is just a shield agent outfit with a woolly mask over it and Spider-Man lenses. It works for what it is, and it's a fun little gimmick. At the same time, is it really necessary? They have Spider-Man kind of make the justification of he needs a different suit so that people don't put two and two together and decide that Peter is Spider-Man while he's in Europe. But the dude still spins webs, he still crawls, he still speaks with the same voice. Who's to say that Spider-Man couldn't just go to Europe, or that Spider-Man couldn't just lurk in the shadows instead? Avoid being seen to the best of his ability. But hey, I guess the merchandising company's got merchandise to make, so we have a Night Monkey costume. Coming in at number 26 is the Iron Spider. Now, there's always going to be something a little sacrilege to me about an all-CGI Spider-Man costume. And the Iron Spider is quite an egregious example of that, because it is a costume that admittedly could only be achieved through CGI, but at the same time, it just doesn't look tangible. It's a nanotech suit. So it's a suit that's made of basically a fictional material. We don't really have nanotech that makes costumes that I know of yet, which makes it difficult for me to kind of believe what I'm seeing here. I mean, I believe it in the context of the Marvel Universe, but outside of that, divorced from that, it's a CGI creation. Design-wise, I think it is actually an improvement on the comic book Iron Spider because it still retains more of that Spider-Man identity. You've still got the red and black color scheme here, slight blue highlights on the black parts, and you've still got the webbing, which you didn't have on the original comic Iron Spider. So I do think there is a nice sort of compromise between the classic Spidey and the Iron Spider here, even taking some design cues from Ben Reilly in some ways, with just the big spider stretching across the chest. The gold highlights are tastefully applied. As far as a metal Spider-Man suit goes, I don't think you're gonna get much better than this. But overall, I found it to be an incredibly overused costume, and it's not one of my favorites, you know? Coming in at number 25 is going to be a bit of a controversial pick, but I'm going to say it anyway. The Advanced Suit Mark I from the Spider-Man PS4 video game. I don't love this suit by any stretch. I honestly find it to be kind of gaudy. It's kind of symptomatic of a lot of my problems with more modern takes on the Spider-Man costume. You make the red sections look like armor panels, for no reason. Just a lot of very unnecessary cuts going through the red sections. Tons of piping in the blue sections. And I'll be honest, I think the big white spider on the chest is gaudy as hell. But what really puts this low on my list, the thing I can't forgive, is the fact that this suit is orange. This is an incredibly ugly shade of red to pair with a white spider, and same goes for the shade of blue as well. It's not vibrant enough to go with the big white spider on the back. The color contrast just doesn't look very good. I don't hate it, but I certainly don't love it. Coming in at number 24 is the black suit from the Insomniac universe. Can you say over-designed? There's elements of this suit that I do like. I do like the fact that they've gone for a more classic-looking black suit with the big white spider spreading its legs across Peter's chest. And I think the shape of the eyes are pretty good. I also like the texturing on the more armored parts of the suit too. What I don't like is how very armored it looks. I don't hate the idea of the suit looking a bit more like an exoskeleton. And I don't think the suit has to look fabric-y either. I know that there's a lot of people that want the suit to look very approachable, because it is Spider-Man at the end of the day, and even in the black suit, New Yorkers have to still view him as a hero. And I understand that, but you can still do that and have it look alien too. Plus, I'm very open to different takes. The Insomniac universe is clearly an alternate universe. So I don't mind this suit looking a bit more alien. But I just don't like how many armor lines and panels are on this thing. I also don't like the textural changes either, how like the biceps have more of an alien gooey look, while other parts of him have more of an exoskeletal look. I can appreciate the idea behind it, but it does come off looking quite over-designed considering that the black suit works so well for its simplicity. I don't hate it, but I think it's incredibly over-designed. Coming in at number 23 is the Miles Morales Halloween costume from Into the Spider-Verse. Every Spidey has their rite of passage, their sort of very early suit that they get before they get their main iconic look. And this is the suit that Miles spends most of Into the Spider-Verse in. And it has to be said, when it came to designing an in-universe Halloween costume of Spider-Man, I think they really hit the mark with this design. Complete with the suit having eye holes and nose holes for breathing, webs on the shoulders that don't line up with the chest, and a little lace to tie the suit together at the back. And what would a Spider-Man Halloween costume be without an absence of the back spider? With that in mind, I actually thought it looked kind of good with the cape. Cape kind of completes the look. I love these very early Spider-Man suits, this sort of rite of passage that every Spider-Man gets, because it feels like something that you, the audience member, could own. Like, Into the Spider-Verse is a film all about asserting that anyone can wear the mask, that anyone can be Spider-Man and you can be Spider-Man, so showing Miles Morales, the main Spider-Man of this film, running around in this Party City looking outfit, it really only serves to drive that home. Coming in at number 22 is the Amazing Spider-Man 1 suit. Now, we're really running now with these suits. And I know that there's going to be a lot of people kind of scratching their heads as to why the Amazing Spider-Man 1 suit is so low on this list, but you got to remember, I'm factoring in a lot of suits here. A lot of fantastic suits, and I think the Amazing Spider-Man 1 suit works quite well for what it's trying to do. This is the suit for Spider-Man's early years, before he's really decided what kind of hero he wants to be. It's a Peter Parker that's got a lot of anger, and has lived a very fractured life that he doesn't quite understand, and I think this suit actually really fits the bill for that. Because this is a tougher and, I dare say, grittier looking suit, as there's a strong contrast between the very black textures of like the webs and the honeycomb patterns when juxtaposed with the red and blue, which seems almost kind of drowned out by those black accents. The spider on the chest is very fragmented and blends into the webs. Same goes for the spider on the back. There's also a lot of form lines though complementing Andrew Garfield's body type. And in movement, this all looks very spider-like. The eyes being this very sort of bronze mesh gauze kind of makes sense in universe. I still think they look a little bit T-strainer-y, and I'd much prefer if they were maybe silver or white, but still, I think they work fine for what they are. It's a fine suit. It's immediately recognizable as Spider-Man. It's got a nice sense of sort of time delineation to it. It tells us a little bit about who Peter Parker is under there, like, as an audience, not people in universe anyway. More of a disguise in that case. We all understand the concept of the mask. As far as a cinematic Spider-Man costume goes, this might be lower on the list, but it's a solid design. Coming in at number 21 is Gwen Stacy's Mark I suit from Into the Spider-Verse. Pretty much just a straight adaptation of Gwen Stacy's Spider-Woman costume from the Spider-Gwen comics. I've always really liked Spider-Gwen's costume. It's easily my favorite of the Spider-Woman designs, especially for the fact that it doesn't retain any of the Spider-Man color scheme at all. This is all hers, consisting of that white, pink, and teal look. I like how we don't have any primary colors here. We're also told a little bit about Gwen's past with this suit as well, including those ballet shoes, and yeah, she fights a lot more like a kind of a ballet dancer in these films, so the ballet shoes work really well. I've always been a little skeptical about hoods on Spider-Man costumes, because surely when you're swinging along, it's just gonna fly off, but it does complement the design here. This is a great costume. The only reason it's as low on this list as it is simply because there are designs I like better, and there's a version of this design which I do like a lot better than this one. Coming in at number 20 is the integrated suit from Spider-Man No Way Home, probably the most iconic suit of Spider-Man No Way Home. This is the suit people think of when they think Spider-Man No Way Home, which is a little bit of a shame as we've got him back in a gimmick suit. There is a logic to why they did this. It does make sense for the story-sensitive Spider-Man to have something to make him stand out from the other two Spider-Men that are in this film, but it means he ends up being the worst dressed of the three. That being said, I do like this design. I'm not massively fond of gold on the Spider-Man costume, and when I saw that Peter would be getting another variation of the Iron Spider design for this movie after the Iron Spider was shown in Spider-Man Homecoming, Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, Spider-Man Far From Home, and now we'd be getting another variation of that suit. Especially when we had the upgraded suit, which I liked a lot more. It elicited some eye rolls from me. That said, when I saw it in the film, I did think it actually looked really nice and clean. What we have here is a mashup of the upgraded suit and the Iron Spider, with the only real part of the Iron Spider going over to this one being the spider on the chest, as well as just a few other little details here and there. Now, a problem is I don't quite buy it as like what a fusion of those two costumes would look like in universe, because it's a fabric suit worn under the nanotech, and the fabric suit should surely just be the same as the upgraded suit, but it's not. In this case, it's got some more extra red lines on it, so I'm just a little confused as to how this works. What's funny is, because we've got a big gold spider on the chest this time, this costume actually lines up a lot more with the classic Iron Spider than the other Iron Spider on this list. So the reason why this suit does come out ahead of the other Iron Spider on this list is simply down to the fact that this is just a more believable suit to look at. It's not made entirely of metal this time, it's just got metal elements on an overall cloth costume, and I think that is because they CGI'd those metal elements onto a fabric costume, obviously with some tweaks being done to the fabric costume as well. Because this is an MCU movie, God forbid we actually use the practical suit. But it does look better than the Iron Spider. I don't know how necessary it was, but I like its in-universe reasoning as well, being that Doc Ock is giving back the nanotech that he stole. So this suit has ties to Doc Ock. That's kind of fun. Would I have preferred to have just seen him in his upgraded suit here? Yes. Yeah, I would. But I still think this is a nice design. Coming in at number 19 is the Miles Morales Mark II from the Insomniac universe. Once again, in modern media, God forbid we ever let a superhero wear the same costume for more than one installment. Miles Morales has made some slight changes to his Spider-Man costume that he wore in Spider-Man Miles Morales, the video game. This time with red stripes going down the arms all the way down to the backs of his hands, and it kind of messes with the color balance a little bit here compared to what we had before. It also ditches that sort of fingerless glove aesthetic, which I find a little disappointing. He's also got this very meshy texture around the black parts of his suit now. This isn't a bad design, it's just as low on this list as it is simply because it's a downgrade. I still like this suit push come to shove, but it's just there is a better version of this suit out there, and I think you'll find it's much higher up on this list. Coming in at number 18 is the Human Spider. Peter Parker's wrestling outfit, his wrestling persona, and this is just a costume made by a dork in the early 2000s, and I love it for that reason. Peter Parker looks really silly in this costume, as he's trying to make a name for himself in the world of wrestling as opposed to doing something actually useful with his powers. This looks like the kind of thing that dorky kid would come up with. It looks like he raided Guy Fieri's winter wardrobe and just came up with this for a wrestling persona, and yeah, fair play to it. It's a great outfit. I love the wrestling suit. Coming in at number 17, though, is easily my favorite of the preliminary Spider-Man costumes. Here we have the homemade suit from Spider-Man Homecoming, and I just adore this design. For starters, of the preliminary suits, at least in live action anyway, this is the one that most closely resembles Spider-Man, as you've got the red, you've got the blue, you've got the spider on the chest. You have got some webbing on the hands, but like not much. But what I really love about this are his expressive goggle lenses. A big trait of the MCU Spider-Man was the expressive lenses, and it's nice to see that on this preliminary suit, we haven't really lost sight of that, because while he's wearing these goggles with these camera shutters inside them, they still do express. It's a great choice, and it means that this costume still feels intrinsically MCU Spider-Man. Another thing I love about this, though, is how it's clearly taking some cues from the Scarlet Spider design as well, with the sleeveless hoodie over the jumpsuit. Except now it correlates more with Spidey's classic color scheme. There's a lot of charm to this design, and it looks like, yeah, you could make it yourself, aside from those lenses. But even then, swap them out with a pair of goggles and you'll be fine. This is probably the most cosplayable Spider-Man costume to date, and I love it partly for that reason. It's just very believable while still looking like Spider-Man. Coming in at number 16 is the Advanced Suit Mark II. Now, well done, Insomniac's design department. You managed to take the Advanced Suit, which was pretty low down, and move it up almost 10 spots. This suit has seen some changes. For one, the design of the red sections have a lot less armor paneling on them now. There are still cuts at the upper shoulder, but it looks a lot nicer because of this. The belt section has a really nice new design as well, and they've ditched the red stripes going down the thighs. The eyes have a new cool gradient effect to them as well, which I really like, and they're very glassy looking. But best of all, this design fixes the shades of red and blue, with the blue being far more vibrant and the red being a lot darker and richer, less orangey looking. To the point that it makes the white spiders work because you've got that sense of color contrast there. 1,000,000 times better. Holy crap, they made me love the Advanced Suit. That's to be commended. The Advanced Suit Mark II is a massive, massive improvement. Coming in at number 15 is Peter B. Parker, and this suit is the very reason why I've previously excluded Spider-Verse movie designs from this list. Because it is pretty much just a perfect Spider-Man costume, so why would it not be at number 1? Well, I don't have much of a relationship with this suit. I love Peter B. Parker, but I mainly just love the guy beneath the suit in this case. The suit is really nicely depicted, and it boasts a lot of the hallmarks of other cinematic Spideys. You've got silver webs, you've got a texturing underneath the webs, but there are some interesting design decisions, such as having the red border the webs at the sides, and I really like the big round lenses. But ultimately, what we have here is a vanilla Spider-Man. I think it's a really cool design for the reasons why I think the Spider-Man costume is a really cool design. And I think it's adapted perfectly fine to this art style as well, but I just don't have much to say about this one. I love the classic Spider-Man, and, you know, I don't want to veer too far away from that ever. At the same time, there's just others on this list that are higher because I guess they made more of an impression on me because of some of the changes that they did make. It's difficult for me to place the Peter B. Parker suit, but I love it on the basis that I love the Spider-Man suit, basically. It's the best possible version of the classic Spider-Man suit for this film, so yeah, fair enough. I still love this suit. It's just it does get drowned out by some of the really interesting and creative decisions made with some of the other Spider people in the movies that Peter B. Parker shares with. Coming in at number 14 is the black suit from Spider-Man 3. Now, there are some people that say, oh, but it's just the red and blue suit, but dipped in black ink effectively, and you couldn't be more wrong. No, there are some very distinct differences that make this suit as good as it is, in my opinion. For one, no, they weren't going to do the classic black suit, and the reason being because Raimi said that it just looked a bit bondagey. I think there are ways you can do the classic black suit without it looking bondagey, but for the Raimi universe, I think this works really well. Like, the Raimi universe has a very distinct design for Spider-Man, and it just makes sense to carry over a lot of what makes that design so distinct to the black suit as well. In many ways, the black suit accentuates it. The fabric texture is a lot less fabricy now, a lot shinier. But those brick patterns that go beneath the webs all over the red and blue appear to be screen printed now as they shimmer and shine. The spiders on the chest and back have a different design as well, with the front legs being hooked, almost as if they're gripping onto Spider-Man's chest. It looks more like a spider that's on the attack. It gives the black suit Spider-Man his own distinct logo separate from Venom and red suit Spider-Man, which I do appreciate. But also the lenses are significantly bigger on the black suit than they are on the red and blue, creating a much angrier look for this Spider-Man. I love this black suit design. Obviously, it's a departure from the classics, but I think it's a good departure. Raimi Spider-Man, as I say, has a very distinctive suit, so to kind of reinterpret that and reinterpret the black suit with it makes a lot of sense to me, and they made a great design here. Coming in at number 13 is the Gwen Stacy Mark II suit from Across the Spider-Verse. Now, yeah, I mentioned before that the previous Gwen Stacy suit came kind of low down because there's just a much better version of it on this list. This is that suit. It's still immediately recognizable as the Gwen Stacy Spider-Woman suit, but with a few small changes here, as we've got these sort of fingerless glove sleeve going on here, which I really like. I think it's a much cleaner take on the arm design. The black sections ride up the chest a little bit more with sort of like pincers on them, which I really like. And she's now rocking teal Converse shoes. A gift from Hobie Brown, aka Spider-Punk. You might be wondering how such small and subtle changes bring these suits up these lists by so much, but it's about the relationship I have with the design, you know, and ever since Across the Spider-Verse came out, I much prefer this version of the suit. So that's why it's much higher up on the ranks. Coming in at number 12, we have Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man from Spider-Man No Way Home. In other words, the suit worn by Tobey Maguire. Once again, subtle differences have this suit down by quite a margin compared to the classic Tobey Maguire Spider-Man suits. But at the end of the day, I'd still rather have this than they completely redesign it. So the main differences here are the webs are flatter and straighter, and the mask is pretty dang different with different lenses and a different web layout. I've made quite an in-depth video about this version of the Spider-Man costume, and it's one that people are really enjoying, which I'm glad to hear. Considering to most, it's just a negligible change. This is basically just the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man costume, but built a lot cheaper, using more modern techniques, and they did a nice job recreating this look. It's my least favorite version of this look. Coming in at number 11, we have the amazing Spider-Man 2 suit as worn by Andrew Garfield. And no, I'm not making a distinction between this and the No Way Home version because they are literally identical as far as I understand anyway. This suit is gorgeous. It was easily the most classic looking Spider-Man suit at the time it first appeared, and it still looks good today. Once again, it serves as a time delineator for the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, no longer quite as unrefined and I guess vengeful as his Amazing Spider-Man 1 counterpart was. This suit belongs to a Peter Parker that has settled into his role as New York City's savior. This is a Peter Parker that wants to bring hope to New York City, and this suit does just that with big friendly white lenses. And again, just a very classic look to it. There are little nods to Mark Bagley's Spider-Man, especially with the shape of the eyes, as well as nods to even the Sam Raimi Spider-Man costume with the brick patterns. Overall, just a really nice suit for Spider-Man. Rocking up at number 10 is the unused Spider-Man costume from Captain America Civil War, and I just had to have a slot open for this suit because it's a really nice design. Like what they ended up going with in the end, this suit draws a lot of its cues from the John Romita Sr. Spider-Man. And it is pretty much a straightforward translation, but there are elements that we immediately associate with MCU Spider-Man that are not present on this design here, making it a little less distinctive. It's a less technological look than what they ended up going for, with no tech line so to speak, but I really like how the red sections are outlined by another red line going around them. And the spiders on the chest and back look really nice, especially the one on the chest, which is just a pure John Romita Spider-Man spider insignia. The webs are also raised on this suit, meaning it's less of a departure from the Amazing Spider-Man 2 design. This suit is just a really nice love letter to that John Romita Sr. Spider-Man. Coming in at number 9, we have the Stark suit. Now, the reason why I put this above the unused Civil War suit, while it may be less classic, it feels like it's settled much more into being its own thing, settled much more into being the Marvel Cinematic Universe Spider-Man, and yes, this is the suit that wrote the playbook for how MCU Spider-Man would look. Since then, they've used a similar logo, they've used the same overall lenses, they use the same overall texture, and I have to say, I'm glad they went in this direction, because even though Spider-Man has like a new suit every 5th minute, they do at least adhere to this design philosophy, which I appreciate. So what we have here is once again a very John Romita Sr. looking Spider-Man. However, there are some very clear departures from the previous Spider-Man cinematic suits, particularly like the Amazing Spider-Man and the Sam Raimi Spider-Man. We don't have any brick patterns going on, instead just fabric textures. The webs are no longer raised or silver or shiny or anything like that, going for something a lot more subtle. They've got these very fine lines which double on the vertical webs, expressive lenses, a very classic spider on the back, and a very bright shade of blue this time around. One thing introduced to this suit was the addition of these black stripes going down the arms and down the torso. These kind of being put in the place of where shading would be on the original Spider-Man artwork, which was a really nice little touch, as it also nicely offsets the black spider and the black lenses as well, given that the webs are no longer so thick as to outline that. This was just a really tasteful redesign. If there's one thing I don't like about this suit though, it's the lines going in the blue sections. They're just a little unnecessary and are just there to make it look techie. I get why, but they're just a little too much and a little too overpowering. You don't need them. Coming in at number 8 is the upgraded suit version 1, now retconned out of existence by Spider-Man No Way Home. Because yes, they changed this suit in Spider-Man No Way Home, but with no in-universe reasoning, and revisited events from Spider-Man Far From Home with the new version of this suit. So yeah, this one is retconned. But what we have here is a really nice evolution of the Stark suit. This time he's rocking a red and black color scheme, much more akin to the very early Ditko days of Spider-Man. This is much closer to his Amazing Fantasy 15 outfit. The spider on the chest now has white accents, and the spider on the back is no longer that classic red round back spider, but instead the MCU spider design now in white. And I must say that is very nicely offset by the black color scheme. The black sections also have this really nice subtle web texture on them, which I really like. It's rare that we see any kind of web patterning go into that part of the design. Here it's much finer than it is in the red sections, and it's very subtle. But it looks really nice and layers the costume really nicely. Perhaps the biggest departure on this suit though are the arms. The arms drawing a lot more inspiration from the Miles Morales Spider-Man costume. They've ditched the red stripe going down the arms, and the gloves are black this time, but with red borders at the top and red fingers, creating kind of a fingerless glove aesthetic, and I absolutely adore how the gloves on the upgraded suit look. I prefer them to the classic look. I love a fingerless glove look for Spider-Man. And because the red now cuts off at the shoulders, the black stripes are still there, but they serve as more of an outline to that than something cutting through the red, which I actually really like. I think that's a great design choice. Coming in at number 7, we have Miles Morales' Mark I Spider-Man costume from the Insomniac universe. Now, when I look at that classic Ultimate Comics all-new Spider-Man design, this is kind of immediately what I think of. This is the perfect realistic version of that design. I absolutely love the different textures we've got going on here, with the red being this very shiny, glossy, rubbery material, the suit being kind of like a black spandex but having kind of like a belt section which is a shinier black. There's a lot of really nice layering going on to this suit. It's one of the few instances where I think that Insomniac Games is sort of There's that kind of penchant for over-designing these suits, and I wouldn't call this over-design. I think this one actually strikes the balance much nicer. I just like how we've got like a flat shade of black, we've got a shiny shade of black, and then we've got the shiny red. And I do think it looks a lot better without the red stripes going down the arms as well, and you retain that fingerless glove look, which, again, I really like the fingerless glove look. This is just a gorgeous translation of that classic Ultimate Comics all-new Spider-Man look, and I was just thrilled with the job Insomniac did with this suit. I think generally the Insomniac Miles suits are better than the Insomniac Peter suits. And this suit here is kind of no exception. Coming in at number 6 is Miles Morales' Mark I costume from Into the Spider-Verse. It's a shame we don't get more time with this suit because it's really beautiful. This was an excellent reimagining of the Miles Morales Spider-Man suit. So Miles takes one of the deceased Peter's suits, spray paints it black, and then spray paints his very own spider paraphernalia over it in red. Miles in this universe is an artist at heart, and to see that translate over to his costume is something really special. And it's a film about Miles making Spider-Man his own, and I think it's only fitting that we get a suit that not only takes that classic Miles Morales look, but makes it the film's own. This is the film version of the Miles Morales costume, and it looks fantastic. I also just love that there's a ring going around the spider now in this version as well. I'm surprised that we haven't seen a ring around the spider before. It just looks really nice and complements this design perfectly. Coming in at number 5, we have the Miles Morales Mark II suit from Across the Spider-Verse. Now, for a while, I thought this suit was a little bit of a downgrade from the previous suit on this list, but now I have to say it's grown on me, and I think I like it even more. The reason being is that there's pretty much nothing of the original Peter Parker Spider-Man design on this suit at all. There's no webs, the layout is completely different, but this suit is just so clean. It keeps things simple this time, and it makes this Spider-Man look all the more distinctive for it. It's nice to see how this look has matured up over the past year. So we've still got the spider on the chest with the ring round it, except now it's far more stenciled. And we've got these red stripes going down the inside of the arms, connecting at the armpits, going down the sides of the torso, bleeding all the way down the sides of his legs. And when Spider-Man is doing flips and barrel rolls all in motion, these stripes just look wonderful. They just look like these ribbons. We've also got some nice detailing, such as down the torso, there's kind of like a protective layer to this suit, and it's very, very subtle, to the point where it doesn't really get in the way of that very simple design. It's just this slight textural change, which I really dig. This is how you redesign an icon. You don't just add a load of lines to it or add a load of tech to it. You instead do something like this. You clean it up. You take only the things that are ultimately necessary to that character's design. I love this suit. This is a redesign done right. Coming in at number 4, we have the final suit from Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, this could kind of change on the ranking because what we're seeing here is really only a CGI creation because we only see it for that one short scene. But what we have here is, as far as live-action Spider-Man costumes go, the most unabashedly, undeniably classic Spider-Man look of them all. MCU Peter is back in the red and blue for the first time since the Stark suit. And because this is Peter's very first homemade suit since the homemade suit, there's no technological details here, so to speak. There's no tech lines, there's no black stripes going down the arms or anything like that. It's just pure classic Spider-Man. The webs are very cleanly drawn on with what looks to be like a marker pen, but the suit does retain some MCU elements as well here and there. The blue, very shimmery sections on this costume still have that very subtle sort of web texture that the red and black suits had. The eyes are still the very expressive lenses seen on the previous MCU suits as well. And the spider insignia still has the legs no longer connected to the spider in the center. However, it takes more of a form akin to like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man design, with the legs being very curved. The same spider design is also used on the back as well. And I think if they really wanted to make this as classic as possible, you gotta get that round spider back. But I think this looks nicer if anything. I'm really looking forward to seeing how a practical version of this costume is going to look. But as far as live action Spider-Man costumes go, this is by far the most classic one of the bunch. Like, this is just pure leapt out of the comics Spider-Man. And kind of in the same way that we have with Peter B. Parker in Into the Spider-Verse. It's just, here, I don't like making distinctions for things that are live action. I don't like live action having an advantage, but when you're creating a costume in live action, there's like, I guess, a sort of a sense of practicality that goes into it. You've kind of got to make it very convincing. And it's just the fact that we had the nuts to do this in live action and go this hard in the direction of it being a classic Spider-Man suit, you know? Whereas in animation, I'm much more welcoming to abstract designs, I guess. But when you can go in live action and create something so classic looking that it's just, you know, jumped out of the pages, yeah, you've done a good thing there, and I really love this design. Coming in at number 3, though, we have the upgraded suit version 2. This is the one that retconned the version 1 out of existence. This is still my favorite MCU Spider-Man suit so far. So it's basically the exact same as the V1 upgraded suit, but with one difference. It's got the classic belt this time around, as opposed to the black stripe belt that we had on previous MCU Spider-Man costumes. This just moves it slightly more in the direction of being the classic Spidey, but I think it also really complements the color balance to have a bit more red going on in the belt section. I like how they brought it to life, and it's the first time seeing the classic Spidey belt in the MCU. This is just a slightly tweaked version of the upgraded suit V1, but that slight tweak goes a long way because this just looks fantastic. This is easily my favorite of the MCU Spider-Man suits. But you know, when we get a practical version of like the final suit, that could change, you know? Like, I'm not blind to the love of the classic Spider-Man, you know? I need more time with it, you know? In at number 2 is the 2002 suit as worn by Tobey Maguire in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 1. Yeah, I'm biased, I don't care. This is the Spider-Man suit of my childhood. But it was an impressive feat considering that we hadn't really gone this hard in the direction of comic accuracy since the Richard Donner Superman films. Sure, Burton's Batman still looked immediately recognizable as Batman, but like he was still wearing an all-black suit, you know? This came out at the time of like the X-Men movies, and here we had a suit that was immediately recognizable as Spider-Man, retained all elements of that classic Spider-Man design, and just kind of leapt out of the pages. This is Spider-Man, but it's pure expensive movie magic. Shimmering silver webs, big pointy eyes, new tech-looking textures all over the red and blue. It's not about practicality, and it's not about like any in-universe reasoning. This is just a very pretty-looking suit. And I'm aware that there is merit to practicality. I'm aware that in like an objective sense, I guess, like, you know, the Stark suit or something might be probably a lot more believable than this, but I love the way this suit looks. And maybe a hot take, not sure. I like the spider insignias better on this suit than the suit that came after, the 2004 version of this suit. I like that slightly more subtle square spider on the chest and the more rounded spider that we got on the back. Just a little more than the evolved versions, which are arguably more iconic, but I prefer these ones. They're a little less showy. So before we get to my first place pick, I am going to give a couple of honorable mentions to some Spider-Man costumes that were worn for the stage. So we've got the Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark costume, and I have to say, I do have a soft spot for this suit. There's definitely elements of this suit that I really enjoy. There are some definitely inspired ideas here, such as that sort of comic book printing dot look that we've got, how the red fades into the blue, and the spiders on the chest and back being this black and orange sort of look with that spider exoskeleton going on. Really cool idea. I also think the eyes look really cool too. That said, silver webbing with kind of a raised effect to it that isn't really raised was an odd choice, given how naturalistic the rest of this suit was supposed to look. I feel like maybe blue webs, as though the red were just layered on top of the blue, would maybe work a little better. I'm not sure. It's a flat spandex suit that's made for mobility and agility when working in the stage capacity, so it's obviously not going to have the frills that the movie ones are going to have, but not a bad suit. I don't hate it. I think it's got its own iconography going for it, you know? And in another honorable mention, we have the Avengers Campus suit, which is basically a real version of the suit worn in What If. And design-wise, this is really nice, maybe even nicer than the Homecoming suit, as the black sections serve more to border the red than cut through it. I also like the enlarged versions of that MCU spider design as well. The execution here could certainly be better though, and I think that is down to the fact that this suit has to be worn by a lot of different actors, and it needs to allow the mobility for the stage as well. But like what we've got here is basically like an MCU stunt suit effectively, where it doesn't fit perfectly, it's maybe a little baggy in places, and you've got this very big fabric knot in the top of the head. It's not the cleanest looking suit in the world. The execution definitely doesn't really help this one, but I think it is a really nice design. It was nice to see this suit represented a lot better in the Marvel's Damage Control VR game. I wonder if that's ever going to get a home release, by the way. Coming in at number 1, we have the 2004 Spider-Man suit, as worn by Tobey Maguire in both Spider-Man 2 and 3. Now, I did mention earlier that I do prefer the emblems on the 2002 suit, and I do, but everything else about this 2004 suit I prefer. The brighter, more shimmery webs, the richer shade of red, the darker shade of blue, and the new gunmetal lenses. It is just a gorgeous combination. This suit, to me, is Spider-Man. Everything that made the 2002 suit great has been really brought to a new level on this one. And while I do prefer the spiders on the 2002 suit, these ones still look really cool, especially that back one, which really does complement the form of Tobey Maguire's back. This suit is just, again, pure movie magic Spider-Man perfected. And that's why it is number 1 on my list. Now, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with me, and as I say, there are some suits that are probably objectively a little superior because they work in both a practicality sense and a design sense. But this list is more about kind of my relationship with these costumes, why they matter, and just how they factor in the grand scheme of things as far as I'm concerned. I think Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is always going to be that quintessential movie Spider-Man. Even if, Tom Holland is great and Andrew Garfield are great, Tobey Maguire is always going to be that cultural touchstone. Like, when I think of movie Spider-Man, this suit's going to be the one that I think about first. And that may vary from generation to generation, but for me, that's just how it is. And that's not to say that, Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland matter any less. And it's certainly not to say that the animated Spider-Man movies matter any less either, but if I were to pick one Spider-Man suit from those movies to be cultural touchstone status, it would be Miles Morales' costume, because those are his movies. And even then, I prefer the 2004 suit. It's iconic in a way that maybe even transcends the original to some degree. But you know what, look, if you disagree with this list, it's all the more reason for you to just make your own, So I highly encourage anyone that wants to make a ranking of their Spider-Man suits to do so. And yeah, what do you guys think? What are your rankings? What do you think of my ranking in my video? Comment below, discuss. The floor is yours down there. And as always, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, be sure to hit subscribe, hit the like button. And if you want your name in the credits of these videos, you can do so by checking out the link in the description below to my Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you can get exclusive content and your name in the credits of all these videos. A special shout out goes to the patrons in the $10 or above tiers, who are Sharif, Dear Denny, Kale Bennett, That Jordo, Kenneth Kozlowski.com, there we go, Legendary Ray Ray, Dr. SP here. During this time of year, many Americans get angry at the sky and try to blow it up. We know what it did. Sergio, Cyrus the Skeptic, did you know the skin on your elbow is called a weenus? And then in the tiers between 5 and 9, we have Yakko the Volcanic Muto, SSS06, Dazzle Fizzle, and Council of Geeks. Thank you all for your generosity, and to all of you at home, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.